Hello everyone and welcome to AVR120. This is session 5. We're going to be talking about methods again and passing a variable to a method and how to use that variable in the method and what that looks like. So let's just dive right in. So a method, passing a variable to a method here. So the calling method, so that's the main method in our program, in our scenario here, can give a variable to a called method. And so the called method would be the adventurer greeting method, okay? So this is the calling method, the main method, and this is the called method here. So this is called passing a variable when the main method gives a variable to the called method. The parameter list determines what variables a method can receive. The parameter list is what is after the method and inside of the parentheses. So if we scroll down here to the adventurer greeting, you can see that what's inside, there's no parameters in the adventurer greeting. So we're not passing it any data. Okay, we're gonna make another method and pass it some data to condense some of the, essentially refactor some of the code that we've been working on here. So when we're defining a method, the data type and parameter name must be indicated in the parameter list. So very similar to declaring a variable, you need to do the same thing for parameter um, in the method signature there, in the parameter list of the method signature. Once passed, a variable can be used inside the called method. It can even have its value changed inside the called method, okay? But a variable changed inside of a method won't be changed outside of it, except in the case of certain types like strings and classes. More on those later. Note that a parameter is a copy of the variable you are passing to the method. Okay, so if we're looking at this example here, we can see that we have our inventory array, okay, and we have a display inventory method. So we can take essentially what we had worked on in the last video and we commented out, and we can put it in a method. And we can declare the inventory array in the main method so that the rest of the program has access to it, but we can pass it to the display inventory method here so that it can have access to it too. And we can put our for each loop in that method so that we can display the inventory like we had in the original code, but it just makes it a little bit cleaner, and also just kind of is a good example of passing data to a method. So this is kind of just reiterating what we'll be doing, so we declare and initialize that inventory array, which we did in the last video, and then we have the display inventory method. We pass it the inventory array, and we then loop through that inventory array using a for each loop. Okay, we're going to do that together now. So let's go back to the code. And if we scroll up, we can go ahead and delete these multi-line comments here. All right. And just to reiterate again, multi-line comment is just the / and the star, and then a star, and then a / for the closing multi-line comment. Okay, so go ahead and useful for blocking out code you don't want to use or you want to use later, as demonstrated. So now we can go ahead and start to write a method that takes in this inventory array. So if we scroll down here, go to the bottom, and we'll go ahead and find the closing bracket for our adventurer greeting, right? Because adventurer greeting was outside of the main method. And we can't have our methods inside of the main method. They need to be outside of them. So we want to put this method underneath this method, but still inside the program class of our application. Okay, so you can use your mouse to mouse over these closing brackets and see those stipulations there. So we'll go ahead and we will press return a couple times to make some space. Static. We don't want it to return data. We want it just to take data. So void, and we'll call this display inventory. Okay. And again, we'll need to put the curly braces after this. All the code needs to be inside of these curly braces here. And you'll see we're going to actually give it a parameter now. So we'll go ahead and declare the parameter, the data type of the parameter. So we want a string, an array of strings. So that's how you'd write that. And we will call this inventory. And I'm going to call it inventory param. Okay. A lot of times in code, they'll just call it the same thing that they're passing it, or most coders will call it the same thing that they're passing to avoid confusion. But I want to iterate this. I wanted to name it something different to illustrate the point that the inventory parameter is technically not the same as the inventory array that we declared up there. It is a temporary parameter is essentially a temporary variable, okay, of the same type as we are passing that holds the data that we are passing so that we can use it inside of this method, inside of the method, to get around the issue of scope or the issue of the method not having access to the variables that the main program has. So if we go ahead and we pass the inventory parameter to this, we can literally just go back to the top, okay? And we can just copy this, copy from the string inventory array all the way down here, okay? And we can Control X to cut, and I'm gonna press the home key and just do a couple backspaces to format it. Scroll back down here, and I can Control V and paste this. And you'll see here that I have this for each loop, and I made a mistake here, sorry. I'm going to take this line and I'm going to actually move it back up. So we're going to declare this array of strings up here, and I'm going to keep these together. Like so. Okay, so now if we scroll down, you'll see that we're getting an error here, right? I copy and pasted this from the main method, and when I pasted it, you can see that I'm getting this error here. And the reason I'm getting this is because this is referencing the inventory array that is in the main method, which is technically not the same thing, all right? This needs to be param, okay? Because essentially what I'm going to be doing is using this parameter here, okay? This string, this array of strings parameter, I'm going to use it to do whatever I want to do in this method, which in this case is looping through the inventory array. And this will be my placeholder for the array of strings that I will be passing from the main method up top to this method here, okay? So if we go ahead and scroll back up now, we can see that this is kind of dimmed out. It's because we've declared and initialized this array, inventory array, but we never use it. So let's go ahead and use it now. We'll go ahead and make another method call. And actually, sorry, I'm going to make this after my adventurer greeting. And I'll call this, you'll see if I start typing display inventory, it comes up there, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and do the parentheses, and I'm getting an error because there's no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter inventory parameter, okay? So parameter is another name for argument. It's essentially it's basically saying, you need to give me something here so that I can use it in the method because it's in the parameter list there. So we're going to go ahead and give it the inventory array. Okay, so we can just type in inventory like that. And you see it fixes the error. And if we save it, you'll see we have no errors. Okay, everything's lit up. It looks good. I'll save again, and then we will run this. Okay, so it asked me for my name because that was the first part of the method, or the first method that we created. Okay, and then it'll ask me if I want to begin my adventure. Again, first method we created, prints my name, and then you can see here it goes into, after running this, it immediately goes into this display inventory and it displays the inventory. And then it runs the this line of code here. Okay. And you can see the name is still wrong though, right? Because my name is Rich, but it's still printing Joe. So there you have it. We've created a we're gonna, I'm sorry, to back up, we're gonna fix that issue that I just went over there, but first we're gonna continue with the passing variables. So that's how you would pass a single variable to a method there. Okay. So all right, before we go into returning a single piece of data, what we'll go ahead and do is I'll show you a little bit about lists. So I'll go ahead and create a list of strings, and we will call this maybe like, we'll call it armor, and we will declare it to or initialize it to a bronze chest guard, bronze gauntlets, bronze leggings, and then a birthday suit. And then we have to put the semicolon at the end here. And oh, yeah, you can see that I'm getting an error, right? And that's because I need to I'm not following the syntax, which would be new, and I need to put lists and string, a list of strings there. So I'll use the new keyword and then list of strings and then list out the strings there. Okay, so we've created um, the armor list here. So the next piece we're going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to make display inventory display the armor list as well. So I can show you passing two pieces of data and also kind of illustrate a little bit about lists. So we'll go ahead and we'll edit this, refactor this method. So we'll go ahead and go, if you double click the display inventory method and you actually right click it, you can see there's a couple options, one of them being go to implementation. So if we click the go to implementation, that tells you where all of the methods code is, okay? Another useful thing to check out, sorry, I'm going to go back up here, is to, if you double click this and then click the find all references, all right, it lists everywhere that this is called. So right now it's only called, this method is only used once in the main method here, but let's say like I use it again somewhere, it'll list all of the times this method was called. And it works for like variables and all those things there. So okay, so we'll go ahead and just right click again, go to implementation. So now we're down in display inventory, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this parameter list here, and I'm going to show you how to pass another parameter. So we're going to make another parameter, and it's going to be a list of strings. And we're going to go ahead and call it the armor param. And we'll keep it the same formatting as the other parameters there. So that looks good. And we'll go ahead and now I can access that armor parameter. So we can go ahead and loop through the armor parameter as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do another for each loop. So for each, and I will again do string, and then I will do, let's do armor in armor param, and then we will go ahead and we will write to console the armor variable, which will print out again it will iterate through the lists all the string entries in the armor list, which we're passing to this method via the armor parameter, okay? And then it will print that to the screen. So you'll see here, if we make the error list a little bit bigger, I'm getting one error. And the reason I'm getting an error is because, okay, it's the same reason as before. We've listed a new parameter, so we need to go back up, and it needs that parameter. So I'm going to go ahead and put a comma here, and I'm going to pass it now the armor list. And so again, double click this and go to implementation one more time, just to make sure everything looks good. Okay, that's all set. I'm going to save, and I'm going to go ahead and play this. All right. Again, my name is Rich. Yes. And you can see it prints out my armor and it prints out my inventory. So we'll go ahead and let's go back to this. So maybe I want to add something and then remove something. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and add to the armor param. I'm going to use the add method that we discussed, and I'm going to go ahead and add a bronze helmet. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the birthday suit because I feel like that is implied. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and I'm going to go ahead and run this. Okay, so you can see now that it's printing off the chest guard, gauntlets, leggings, helmet, and it has removed the birthday suit. So we can go ahead and exit out of this. And that is how you pass multiple variables to a method. One thing to note too is you can also just pass straight up numbers, like integers or like a string literal directly to the method as well. And you don't have to, as long as it's the same data type as what you've indicated, it doesn't have to necessarily be, it can just be a value. It doesn't have to be like a variable. So like what I mean by that is like you could do something like rich and like as a name, and if I just made string name here, and I went back up, you see I'm not getting any errors. So like I can just pass a straight value to a method as long as I have the parameter and the value that I'm passing is the same data type as that parameter. So in this case, the string name, the data type is rich, right? So, or is, sorry, this is a string, so it's the same data type. So that works. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And we can go ahead and move on to returning a single piece of data here. So